This is Lady Flava, and I'm blessed today to spend some time with a dear friend and colleague, business partner, Marc VanClaggett. He has agreed to do his story with Tell Your Story with Flava. So I want to introduce you to Marc VanClaggett. So Marc, we've got your music playing in the background, which is just perfect for the setting of what I want to do today with you on Tell Your Story with Flava. I know a lot about you because we've worked together for a long time.
Right.
But
yes.
I want you to introduce yourself. And if I was to ask you, Marc VanClaggett, who are you? What would you say?
That's a good question. I think Marc VanClaggett is a number of people, I really do. I'm a father, an entertainer, songwriter, abstract artist, an array of things,
Right. So, I know a lot of the entertainers and artists I've talked to, especially singers, when I ask them, when I would do the interviews on the radio show, I would say, where was your beginning? What did that look like for you? And many of them said church.
That's it. That's basically it. I sang in the choir, which was a good time for me, and I learned a lot singing in the choir. My uncle, which was my idol, Uncle Gus, Augustus Chin, and he sang in several gospel groups, and they recorded albums, and I was fortunate to play bass in one of his groups. But before that, he used to take me to a lot of his programs every Sunday, and they would sing with, the type of programs they would have with different groups would come and perform, And this one Sunday, it was this group that came, and they were called the Soul Stairs. And I was so in awe of this lead singer. And, Uncle Gus was my idol, of course, But this one singer, lead singer of the Soul Stairs, he just blew my mind. And his name was Sam Cooke. And I became a Sam Cooke fan for life, And so I wanted to sing. I knew I was going to be a singer.
So how old were you at that point?
Oh, I was young. I wasn't even a teenager. I was probably about 11 or 12.
Okay. And where were you living at that time?
In Maryland, Baltimore,
okay.
Baltimore, Maryland. And I was raised by my grandparents, mostly by my grandparents. And my grandmother, she was such a smart woman. Only had a third grade education, but she was brilliant. She was so smart, and I learned a lot from her. But she did not want me to sing rock and roll. You had to sing church music only, So, that's what I did. I sang in the church a lot.
So, Marc, we were speaking a little bit about your grandmother, and I know personally and professionally she was a big influence on your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you spoke about the fact that she really wanted you to kind of sing more gospel Christian music versus rock and roll or anything beyond that. So at what point did you start performing? Was it as an individual artist, or was it a part of a group, and how did your grandmother feel about that?
Well, it was part of a group, and we were young, and the name of the group was the Highlights. Strictly doo-wop group. Did a lot of Temptations, well, a lot of Motown stuff, and I tried to hide that from my grandmother. I mean, I was a wee bit older than, it doesn't matter how old you get, your grandmother is still your grandmother.
Right.
So, but the name of the group was the Highlights, as I said, and we did a lot of talent shows. We won a few. We won more than we lost, and we never recorded anything. I mean, we were still young. I was the oldest in the group.
Okay.
But we had great singers. The guys could really sing.
So were you singing original music or were you singing covers?
No, just covers.
Okay.
Yeah. And we would do like, I used to like to do the talent shows, and of course the girls would give you inspiration, as usual. But that group kind of disbanded, and then, of course, I had gotten older. I was the co-founder of this new group, and we called it Man's Theory. It was a 5-piece, self-contained act, and we did everything from jazz to rock, soul, pop, and that's what made the group so famous in the tri-state area. It's because we did all of those things, and we got booked all over the place. I mean, New York, Virginia, just around like the tri-state area. And we did a lot of tours. We opened up for top name acts. We traveled with the OJs for 90 days, which was that was tough. I mean, we didn't work straight 90 days, but we were away from home 90 days, and that was good. I got an education working with Eddie and Walter, and what was so exciting about the last show that we did, the end of the tour, it was Mom's Mabley. I know I'm dating myself right now because Mom's Mabley was on the show, the last foot of the tour, and unfortunately she died a week after the tour was over. But I got to know her, and you talking about stories. Woo. She was an incredible lady, and funny, really funny, So that went on with Man's Theory for a long time. We recorded an album, and the reason I think that we got the chance to record the album is because some big wigs came from New York. They had an end with a connection with MCA Records, and they wanted to know who was the hottest group in Baltimore. So the DJs, like from WWIN and WEBB, they said it was Man's Theory, hands down. So we auditioned for these cats, and they loved us. 2 weeks later, we were in New York recording the album.
Okay.
Because we had written a lot of stuff together, because we had writers in this group. I wasn't just a sole writer. We had great writers like Chuck Gentry and Mike Taylor, and we did most of the writing, the three of us. And so we recorded the album. The album did fairly well. It didn't break no records or number one on the Billboard charts, and no Grammys, but it was a good album, and it sold actually a lot of units, so we were excited about that. I think we did as much as we could in Maryland. I decided whether to take the group either to New York or LA, so Chuck and I decided, well, let's go to LA, the opportunities of LA. And the only two that went to LA was myself and Chuck.
Okay.
So I was really hurt because the group was a part of me. I mean, that was, I was the lead singer of this group, and of course I was the oldest in that group too. But I taught them so many things. Like, I'll give you an example. Excuse me. We had this dinner, and actually was a dinner for us. After we recorded the album, one of the big wigs, his wife came over to see us, to talk to us, and I told the guys, I said, look, when she comes over here, we're gonna stand up, right? Because we're gentlemen, So when she was coming over, I said 3, 2, 1, and we all stood up. I mean, it was like it, you know what I'm saying? And that was so impressive to her, and things like that. And then when we would rehearse every day, and we would go to across the street from this club that we were playing, and we would rehearse at the same club that we would play every night. And it was a Chinese joint. It was called the Golden Dragon. I'll never forget. We would go over there. We would eat. We would start at like 12:30. We would go eat. We'd come back over to the club, and we would exercise for half an hour, and then we would start rehearsing for 4 hours. And then we would take a break and rehearse for 2 more hours. But that made the group as hot as it was. You have to rehearse. You got to rehearse. And it was good to be in a situation where the other guys thought the same way that I did. We were on the same page. Getting back to moving to LA, I sold my car and bought a van, packed up all my stuff and Chuck's stuff, and we drove to LA. Didn't know nobody, no friends, no family, but we knew we had to make the sacrifice, And I'm sorry that the other 3 guys didn't want to do that, but we just had to go on. So we slept in the van for a long time, and we were still pounding the pavement because we had songs that we had recorded from like reel to reel,
Okay.
And so we had the songs. We would pound the pavement, like Hollywood Hills, Beverly Hills, going to management companies. And then we met this guy. He said, well, man, you guys can stay in the YMCA. So we stayed in the YMCA for like 3 weeks. And we found out that a group from Baltimore that we knew, London Fog, and they were out in Compton. So a friend of mine, well, I knew them all, like Chester Davis and Dennis and Jamie Flynn. So Chuck and I got with the London Fog.
Okay.
And we were pretty hot. It was a 4-man group because London Fog was a trio. And when I got with him, made the fourth member. But and I was playing flute like in the background and singing with them, but they wanted me to come in front, with them, So I kind of rebelled against that because I wanted to be with the band. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a little complicated, but eventually I got with the group, and we did quite a few things. We stayed at this one club called The Name of the Game. I mean, talking about memories, and we stayed there for 2 years. 2 years playing.
Wow.
4 nights a week, 2 years, and we would pack the house every night. We didn't do a lot of recording. We did some recording, but it wasn't good, But we did get a chance to be featured in a movie, The Idolmaker. That was an experience. I liked that. I enjoyed that.
So was that just doing Writing the music or performing the music in the.
We did the soundtrack as well,
Okay.
but we had two scenes, the studio scene and they called it the instead of the American bandstand, they call it National Bandstand.
Okay.
You know, so we did that scene too, and it was along with Sweet Inspirations, which was Aretha's background singers and also Elvis's background singers at a time.
So, Mark, we were talking about some of the groups that you've been a part of, Man's Theory, and then it segued into London Fog. So, how long were you actually with London Fog?
I think about 6 years. The studio that wanted us to be in the movie, they only needed 3 guys. It was 4 in the group, but since I knew the Sweet Inspirations and some of the people that wanted us to audition for this, the leader of London Fog said, "Okay, well, it's 4 of us. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna put our names in the hat, and then I'm gonna pull it out." I said, "I tell you what," I said, "You put 3 names in the hat, because my name's not going in there. I'm already in. I already got the gig." So that was it. Wasn't funny at the time, but it was funny to me. But it worked out because I did get an education in movie life. It's not as easy and as glamorous as making it, as it is when you see the full picture of what what's going on the screen. But like I said, it was an education, and I enjoyed it.
So, where did you go with your career from London Fog?
Well, we were still in L.A. London Fog, kind of split up, and Chester and I knew this guy Tony Powers, so we formed this group, Class One. I didn't like the name Class One at first. It sounded but after a time it kind of grew on me, and as the name grew on me, the group grew on me too, because I'm the type that I put my whole heart in something that I think is worth my time. When I see it's something there, the potential is great. I go balls out, and so we found this other guy, which was Anthony Williams, and he was a great addition to the group. We rehearsed every day. I don't know whether that was my idea or we were still on the same page, but we rehearsed every day. Didn't have no gigs, didn't have no band,
Okay.
But we would rehearse at Mr. Cooper's rehearsal hall, and we would put our little money together, to pay for the rehearsal hall. So Mr. Cooper, he was a nice old guy. He knew that we were determined, and he let us come up there and rehearse free because he saw the potential of the group. And so we finally got a band together, and then we started doing some gigs. I mean, the gigs that we were doing it was phenomenal. I mean, it was top-notch stuff,
So, Class One actually originated where?
Out of L.A.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. This management team saw us, and they said, "Well, we got to sign you guys up because y'all need to go to Vegas." So, and I always wanted to go to Vegas anyway because that's where it was, And every year we would come to Vegas to do it was called the Chef's Ball, where all the chefs from different casinos would come to the Sahara and just have a big ball, and they would bring sculptors of their logos, and just all of the casinos would come there every year. It was an annual thing. Actually, it was the Space Center where Jerry Lewis would have the telethon.
Okay.
So I was excited about that. Never met Jerry Lewis, but so we would do that, and then we would drive back to LA. But getting back to this management team, they saw us, they loved us, they got us a lot of gigs in LA, and we were on the road, a 15-passenger van that was any minute was gonna break down, But we carried the band and their equipment, and we toured the South, Nebraska, and all over the place. We wanted to record some stuff, and because I had a lot of songs that I had written, and actually that Chuck and I wrote. They really just wanted to make money, and do the clubs, and but my head was someplace else. I wanted to record. I wanted to get a record out, because with a record out and the way that this group could perform, it wouldn't be a problem for us to skyrocket with some material. That never came about, and I was really brokenhearted. Well, actually, I left the group. Yeah, I left the group and moved to New York to sing with the Drifters. Here I go again. I'm back on the East Coast. So I stayed with the Drifters for about 4 years, and then I got with this group, Vintage, and that was a great group, 4-man group, and we would go like to Germany and Amsterdam and England and do a lot of top-notch stuff, and I really enjoyed that, and I really got an education with doing that. That was phenomenal.
Okay, you were just beginning to tell me about a group that you became a part of called Vintage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We came back to Vegas, and we were supposed to go to that Tuesday morning. We were supposed to go to Amsterdam, and it was like an award show, kind of I guess the equivalent to the Grammys or the Oscars, something like that. But we were going to go there and spend a week and just kick it, in Amsterdam.
Okay.
But unfortunately, that was 9/11, and everything shut down. No airports, no nothing. And that was a sad day for me. Not because I couldn't go to Amsterdam, but because 9/11 was 9/11. Mm-hmm. So in Las Vegas, the airport McCarran was still closed. LAX was open. They were going to open that Friday. So we drove to LA, and we caught a plane from LAX to Amsterdam. And I was so nervous being on a plane. That was kind of scary. But when we got there, it was nice, and Amsterdam was everything that people told me Amsterdam was. So I enjoyed that. We did the award show. We came back home. We flew back home.
So was home at that point the East Coast, or
no? I came back to Vegas.
Oh, so Vegas at that point was home.
Right,
okay.
Yes. I'm back and forth.
Okay, I see that, but that's all right. I'm just trying to keep up.
Okay, all right. I hope I'm not confusing anyone, but yeah, I was back and forth. Oh, I left Vintage, and I said, well, I really want to do some things on my own.
Okay.
And I still had some songs. Then I put out my first CD, I Want You, which was to me it was my best. You know, I love that album. You know, I just had some great songs on it. And then, you know, my partner and I, Chuck Gentry, we wrote a lot of the songs together. I put that album out, and then this guy, he was an agent. God, I can't think of his name. Nice guy. He said, "Have you ever thought about doing Nat King Cole?" You know, I said I love Nat King Cole, but Nat King Cole was a little darker than me. You know, he said, from a distance, you look just like Nat Cole. You know, so I said, I'll entertain the thought. You know, so I started working on it. I did my homework and the research, and found out that, God, Nat King Cole recorded just as many songs as Frank Sinatra or Elvis.
Okay.
You know, and so I tried to all of his major hits. I tried to learn them and to kind of do them like he did. You know, I didn't, but you know, it was as close as I could get to Nat King Cole. You know, so I got this gig in. I'm back on the East Coast again.
Okay.
All right. Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. It was a theater, Lily Langtree Theater, and it was in the Radisson Hotel, and I stayed in the Radisson, so didn't have far to go to the gig. Mm-hmm. You know, just get on the elevator, right? I started, like I said, I really started trying to be Nat King Cole. You know, do my hair, and with the makeup, it was like the makeup was like mocha. I had to do my face and my hand just to look a little darker. Okay. You know, so I did that, and that was a 3-month thing, but that was 2 years. We did that for 2 years, and the cast was, we had skaters, and we had Liza Minnelli, Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, and Nat King Cole.
Okay.
And it was so funny. I mean, really strange to me, because this was my first shot doing anything like that. Mm-hmm. But I was the headliner. I mean, I would think that Sinatra would be the headliner, right? Okay. But they made Nat King Cole the headliner, but I did come on next to last.
Okay.
That was really great, and it was a point where we would work every night, but we would only work like an hour, and my part was only 15 minutes, you know, and that was easy money. I loved the money, but I loved doing that because I had my own dressing room. I had nobody to bug me, you know. They would bus people in from different parts of Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, you know, and this was the wintertime because they would have the shows at the theater from Thanksgiving till around January 6th, you know, and we would do that show, and we did it for 2 years. And it's a funny thing because it would be these real cute little old ladies, you know, would come up to me after the show, and because we would sign autographs and you know, and they would want to talk to us. And you know, one lady said to me, she said, "You know, I loved you. I really loved you, but you didn't do my song." I said, "Which song was that, ma'am?" She said, "Candyman." I said, "Ma'am, that was Sammy Davis." So, and she said, "Oh, okay, all right," you know, but the really cute little old ladies. So I did that for a while, well, actually 2 years. Then I got back with Vintage, went back to the West Coast, back to Vegas. So we did this tour in England. It was production shows, you know, kind of tribute shows, because we were doing the Four Tops. We had Stevie Wonder and the Temptations and the Supreme. So we would we were next to last, and the Temptations, of course, were the headliners, so they came on last. But our show was so polished that you could see the guys from the Temptations and the girls from the Supremes backstage, stage left, stage right, just looking at the show, at our show, and you could see it in their faces that they were a little in awe of the show, just as well as the audience was, So the leader of that group his name was Don Burton. So he was going to let one of the guys go after the tour was over. We did 16 cities in England. Great time. We traveled with a Mercedes-Benz bus that had 2 showers, sleeping areas. I mean, it was great. A huge bus. God, some apartments don't look like that.
So tell me again the group that was.
That was Tribute.
So this is when we're segueing into Tribute.
Yeah, are we going?
Okay.
Yeah, that's when Don Burton came into play. So he was letting one of his guys go after the tour, and he said, he would love to have me in the group. So I said, okay, more money, and more money, just more money.
Okay.
Because he was doing a lot of the cruise lines, and I love to travel, so that was fit right in my wheelhouse, to do a lot of traveling.
So what year was that?
This was 2000. This was 2004. Actually, it was December 2004 when I did the first show with Don.
Okay.
I was supposed to meet them in Cabo San Lucas and get on the ship there, but I only rehearsed with them 3 times. So I was a little shaky, but their routines weren't that intricate, so I could catch on real quick. But and I'll never forget, it was December. I can't remember the date, but it was December 2004. I missed my flight. That's what it was. And I mean, it was just like a bad day to me. It was what could go wrong went wrong that day. Missed my flight and a whole bunch of stuff, and I think I lost my phone, and then I was in a funk that day. But then I looked at I got a newspaper, and I looked at the front page, and it was a lot of people just laying on the ground because of this tsunami. It was. I said, "Damn, am I having a bad day?" I said, "No, these folks are having a bad day."
Right.
So my whole attitude changed. Next day I got on the plane. I met the guys in Cabo San Lucas. We rehearsed for 3 hours. We had to perform that night, But I made a few mistakes, of course. But I caught on, and I stayed with Tribute for 13 years. And we went all around the world several times. We would go to Japan twice a year, which was awesome, because I always wanted to go to Japan. We would go there, and we would stay like 9 days, and made a lot of money because they paid us in yen, which was more, higher than the U.S. dollar. The guy that booked us, his name was Mr. Kinko, and he had 7 Kinko nightclubs around Japan, in Osaka, Tokyo, and different section of Japan. And then it would always come down to next to the last day of us coming back to the States. We would perform big concert on his golf course.
Okay.
Which was fabulous. You know, we would race the golf carts, you know, during the day, you know, and then we would perform. We would do the concert at night. So, and then the next day or 2 days later, we would come back to the States and then do the cruise lines. We were so busy with the cruise lines when we started doing 5 cruise lines. And that was Royal Caribbean, Princess Cruise Line, Holland America, Norwegian, and the Canard, you know, with the Queen Mary and all of that. You know. So we were really busy. Through my life, it's always been like that. You know, I've been on the road a lot, and I guess that's why I have a real strange relationship with some of my children. You know, I'm sure that's what it is, because I wasn't at home a lot, but I was doing what I wanted to do, what I trained myself to do, what I was good at doing, but I was doing it for them as well. You know.
And I'm going to just interject here. I think this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this project, you know, is that as people are going to hear through this storytelling, I'm going to say, is, you know, the reason why, you know, you were on the road all the time, you were performing. I know your work ethics. As you know, I love your voice, and you've told me stories that your voice has changed over the years and all of that. But part of me wants to also have a documentation, you know, that, you know, your children can go back and hear and understand, you know, who you were. The other thing, too, is, Mark, in my opinion, is that God gave you this gift.
Right, yes.
And it goes beyond your voice. It goes beyond your talents as an entertainer, because you're an amazing musician, singer, songwriter, composer, producer, and we definitely need to talk about that. I will say this. You came into my life in about 2011, 2012, and you know, we were introduced by Michelle Green. She felt that I could, you know, help you with your career and all of that. But it was so funny, because I think the first time we talked, maybe it was like in December, and you were getting ready to go out on tour on a cruise ship. And you know, I had no idea what your setting looked like or anything in Baltimore, but I pictured you in this chair with a cigar, drinking, I don't know, cognac, Hennessy, something, Hennessy, you know, and just the suave, you know, debonair man, and all of that. But through your travels and the years that we've worked together, known each other, and been friends, you know, I got to see things that I would have never seen, you know, through your eyes and what you would see. And I would always tell you, take pictures. You
would always say that, yeah.
Because I'm like, you get to see places I'll probably never get to see.
Right.
And so, you know, when you would tell me the stories of you know, the cruise ships and what you had the opportunity to see, and the things you experienced just on the cruise ship, let alone, you know, when you pulled into dock.
Yes, right.
You know, I was always like, you know, I want to see it, what you see. And I value those memories for me, that you would share pictures and stuff. Christmas time, you always did what?
Took pictures of Christmas trees wherever I went.
Right.
Different Christmas trees.
So, you know, for many years now, which I'd never even thought about until I'm saying this now, you know, I've been able to follow your journey in the years that I've known you, you know, as an artist, entertainer, and performer. So. Okay, you know, I had to throw some of my thoughts in there, Mark, of, you know, my experience of you and and when you came into my life and we started working together, and it always amazed me. No, that's not even the right way. It kind of I didn't understand why when you were out on tour and you were going to all these fabulous, beautiful places, I almost had to beg you to take the pictures. But I think if and you can tell me if I'm correct or not. I think it's because you've been doing it for such a long time that it just kind of became a way of life, you know.
Yeah, I agree. After the first couple years, you know, sailing around the world, you know, flying to different ports and docking in different ports, it kind of was the same, and it wasn't that important to me to take pictures, you know. I kind of took the pictures with my eyes, and
right.
You know,
and I do understand it, but I also appreciated the fact that you indulged me with taking pictures, because you sent me some fabulous pictures over the years while you were touring.
Yeah, it was some great pictures.
But let us go in a different direction, because you know, we've talked a lot about your travels and your time in being in a variety of singing groups. But you briefly mentioned a album that you did, I Want You. So why don't we talk about your record label, Marlex Records?
Okay. A number of years ago, I started this label, Marlex Records. It's from my next to the oldest daughter, Marcy, and next to the youngest daughter, Alexis. So I just put it together, Marlex Records. It was, in the beginning, I was excited about it, you know, because I had a nice album, you know, I Want You, which I keep saying this, and at the risk of sounding redundant, I think it was my best album, you know, and I can't take all the credit for the writing and producing, because my writing partner Chuck Gentry, one hell of a producer and writer. You know, we did this together. But then I went on to do some different things with Marlex. We had a nice little staff, you know, and I wrote a jazz CD, a jazz album. And I've always loved jazz, but I've never had a chance to write it. And I used to play it because I still play flute in jazz, you know. So I've always loved jazz, but never got a chance to write any. So my first endeavor was Jazz at Sunset. Not a bad album, you know. I liked it. Some of the songs on it I liked, you know. And to be brutally honest, I didn't like them all. You know, to be honest. But the majority of the songs on the album I liked. And like I said, it was my first shot in writing jazz music. And that was my second album. The third album was Emerald Drive, right?
Yes.
Emerald Drive, yes. Yeah. Listen to me like I've written so many albums. Right? I can't think of the name of them. The jazz writing got a little better. You know, I had majority, 99% of the songs on there were jazz, and then it was an R&B song on there. It was called. What was the name of the song? This guy Peanut Bush co-wrote it, and he sang the song. So I put it on my album, and that was the only R&B song that was on there. And to me, I think that was one of the better songs on there. God, I can't think of the name of the song.
I know. I feel bad because I can't think of the name of it.
It'll come back to me. The next album was The Night.
The Night.
Yes. And as you can see, the jazz writing got better and better and better, you know. And I loved a lot of the songs on the Night CD, especially the title tune, The Night. That was great.
I think for me, The Night. Well, you know, it's a special album for me, but I think it tells a beautiful musical journey, and there's a theme to it.
It is. It is a theme to it. It's the theme to The Night is like what you would really think of, you know, like the knight in shining armor. And in fact, I wrote a song called Koshi, which is your last name, and it was mainly for this wonderful man that I had the privilege of meeting, and his name was Peter Koshi, which is your father, and I loved him like he was my father, and I think he kind of liked me too. You know,
he definitely loved you to come to Seattle for your visits, and he would always ask me, "Where's Mark at now?"
It was a pleasure meeting him, and staying with the theme of The Night, I named the song that was Sarkozy. Right? That was Sarkozy.
It was. Mm-hmm.
So the song was just Koshi. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just Koshi, and that was one of my favorites. I like that song. Yeah, that album was pretty good.
So, Mark, tell me, where did you learn your skills as a producer, a composer, a songwriter, you know, all of that, to be able to even establish Marlex Records and to create, you know, music that's recorded for sale?
I think it was will. I think it was something that I had to do. It was the same way when I first started playing flute. I had no lessons. I just picked it up and started practicing on it, you know, and I got good at it. And listening to music with the flute in it, that got me, you know, just enthralled with playing the flute. So it was something that I had to do. Like, I listened to music, listened to all the little bells and whistles and the bass line, the string line, the phrasings. So I knew I had to do that. So it's just practice, you know. It's just
so
will.
All of it is self-taught.
Yes.
And I know that I've had the privilege, not many times, but I've actually seen you visually put music together. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember when I came to Vegas in 2014 to see Tribute perform, and I had the opportunity to see you actually work on your own music, and I was just captivated and just impressed with how you knew how to put these sounds and how long the sounds should go, and
right, yes.
how you would add your voice to it. And I guess I've never really thought about asking you prior to now, you know, how you learned it. But I mean, that's one of the things that I you know, respect and appreciate about you, is because you have an amazing ear. And sometimes when I would get music, you know, sent to me for the radio shows and all, I'd say, "Mark, will you listen to this?" And you would kind of help me, you know, hear what it, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly of yes. some pieces. And so, you know, I know that right now, you know, in your life, you're more so working on creating your own original music. But to before we get into that part of your life. So you went from tribute, and that's when you came into my life, is when you were still with tribute.
Right,
You were working on your own original music. At the time that I met you, you were living in Baltimore.
Right, yeah.
So at what point, when was the first time you actually lived in Vegas, and for how long?
This was, I left LA and moved to Las Vegas. I think it was in 98, either 98 or 97, something like that. And I stayed in Vegas for, I think, 11 years.
Because I know there was a point that you told me that when you became an entertainer and really performing here in Vegas, you did some really big shows.
Yes.
And made some really good money.
Right. Yeah. And it's so crazy because, you know, when you come to Vegas, it's really difficult to get into the clique, you know, because there is a clique here. Well, it was a clique in Las Vegas, and it's so difficult to get into that clique. But the group that I was with, the Class 1 group, we were so good that they couldn't help but to let us in that clique, you know. And they let us in, and we took it from there.
And where did Class 1 perform?
A huge percentage of the casinos in Las Vegas.
Because you had a residency,
at
right?
Bally's, yes. Yeah, we were there a long time. A number of years we were at Bally's. And it was the Indigo Lounge.
So, Mark, you've given us a good sense of your career as an entertainer. You've touched on owning your own record label, creating your own music. But something that I'm curious about, and I think that possibly, you know, the followers of Lady Flava News would be interested in, when did you feel that you were the most successful in your career as an artist, entertainer, performer?
That's a real good question, and it's a lot of groups and a lot of places that I've been, like, but in Vegas. Take Vegas for instance. When the early parts of Class 1, we were making very good money, where we, at one point, we all lived in this big house together, and we were making enough money where we could get our own place, you know. So that's what some of us did, and cars, and that was a good time financially. The cruise ship was very, we were financially in a very good place, you know, because we're making a lot of money going on the ships, a lot. But getting back to Vegas, it was good money in the beginning, you know. We stayed at the hotels where we performed, which was good. But then things just started going downhill a lot, you know, and rapidly. Where you'd have to get your own apartment or stay in a cheaper hotel, you know, and that wasn't, to me, wasn't fair to the performers that were coming from out of state, or even the ones that lived here. The money just wasn't there, and the casino, the guys running the casinos, they stopped caring about the entertainment.
So I think there was one point that you had told me, and just tell me if I'm remembering this correctly. I believe that you had told me that when the mobsters, I don't know if that's the fair way of defining, but the mobsters ran Vegas, the money was better.
It was a good time. I hate saying that, but I have said that on several occasions. When the mob ran Vegas, it was a good time. The money was flowing. It was, you didn't think about the danger, because it was a friendlier time when the mob ran it. It wouldn't seem like it, but that's what it was for the entertainers.
So do you think that that's when the shift took place where black entertainment stopped making, the bigger money and things kind of shifted with the casino owners?
When the corporate people started running the casinos, that's when and moved the mob out. That's when the money started dwindling. That's when they didn't want to pay you as much. You'd have to find your own place to live. And it started going downhill from that, and it's still going downhill. And I've heard you say this on a few occasions. I don't know. Well, we don't know what, especially black entertainment, black artists from doing. How's it going to be in the next 3 to 5 years? I've heard you say that, and I agree with that 100% because God only knows, man. God only knows.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this project too, because I've heard your stories of when it felt like you were on top of the world as an entertainer, not just money-wise, but you were just given, the respect,
right? Yes.
and being able to perform on bigger stages and in front of huge audiences, and we're given more opportunities back in the day to
exactly.
Now what's taking place in Vegas, where there's a struggle, when it comes to getting shows, and when you're getting shows, it feels like you're not even making enough, to make ends meet.
That's right.
And all of that, and so, and I have expressed to you, Mark, like what is black entertainment going to look like, in 3, 5, 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
The great shows, because I've seen, Tribute perform. I've seen you perform with In Demand. I've seen you perform, with Motown Extreme, and seen polished shows like that deserve to be on the Strip.
Mm-hmm, right.
Yes. And I don't know what it's going to take, or if it's ever really going to happen, where black entertainment in Vegas is given the respect and given more opportunities, to get in front of bigger audience. Actually, to get in front of audiences that are the visitors, the what do you call it? The tourism of Las Vegas, because I think that's where the money is when you can get on the Strip and you have that opportunity for people outside of Vegas to experience who you are.
You're absolutely right.
So you've given a lot of, history of who you are and what you've done in this industry, What do you think is the hardest thing that you've experienced in the years that you've been performing and traveling and creating?
One thing does come to mind. I've had on several occasions witnessed racism. I have witnessed that, and that's ugly. that's ugly.
Can you speak on what that looked like?
Well, and it's not just in the States. It happened to me in Spain, in Germany. In Germany a couple times, and this is since I've been grown and been in show business, but more so in the States, and it's still happening, and I hate it because it's ugly. But I really don't care to specify it.
Okay. Okay. I have to respect that.
Yeah.
So the good times kind of is around performing here with Class 1 in Las Vegas, where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
to traveling the world with tribute and the places that you've seen and the audiences you've performed in front of. And then on top of it, you made really, really good money.
Yeah.
So those were what you would identify as your successes.
Yeah, I would identify that as my successes. But on the other hand, too, Lady Flava, if it just made me happy when you're on stage and everything is gelling, you make a communication or a connection with the audience and they send it right back to you. That's better than money.
Yeah.
You know,
I can imagine.
I mean, it doesn't pay the bills, but
right.
But that's a great feeling, and that's what kept me in this business for such a long time.
So, do you have any regrets?
Not many. I do have some, but I don't. Not a lot.
Okay.
Not a lot.
So
some of the things that I would do differently, but not many.
So, what do you think the future looks like for you?
I think I'm about to retire from the stage, but not the music.
Never the music.
Go. As long as I can write it, I'll be always in it until they put me in the ground. But I am retiring from the stage.
Okay.
And that's really heartbreaking, because the things that I would do on stage, and the feeling I would get from the audience, and the feeling that I think that I was giving them, I can't do that no more, and that's sad to me, because I love doing what I was doing.
I hope that you can hold on to the memories, though, because you've got a lot of memories. You've got a lot of memories. But the thing is, too, Mark, is, you know, the music you create is beautiful.
Thank you.
And from the instrumentals to the words, you make that woo-woo music. You know, I remember 2012 when I had you on my radio show, and it was the women calling in, and they were requesting certain songs, and, you know, listening to the show. And, you know, clearly women are who are your audience, you know, but you make that beautiful, you know, love music. When I say that, it's like that music that women want to hear. They want a man to feel that way about them, you know. And, you know, when I heard, you know, I Want You album, I'm like, oh, yes, you know, I like that song. I wish somebody felt that way about me, you know,
right,
and stuff. And I do think that's probably one of your greatest projects. But I know I'm blessed. I can't speak on it, but I'm blessed. I get to hear the music that you create, you know. And so, you know, I look forward to the day that you give me permission to be able to share.
Okay.
And, you know, hopefully one day soon that will happen. But I appreciate this opportunity. Not as just on a professional level, but as your friend and somebody who loves you dearly, to give me this opportunity to help, you know, share your story. So is there anything else that you want to share that we didn't touch on?
Well, just to follow up on the music, I Want You was my favorite CD, and a lot of people liked it, but and I'm taking this from an old guy, an old songwriter. I haven't written my best stuff yet.
Okay.
You know, but I'm working on it.
I know you are. I know you are.
But it's been a pleasure doing this, and I wasn't leery about doing it when you asked me. I was mostly excited, and I'm glad we did this.
I'm glad we did it too.
Yes, definitely.